But so often it takes far more than it actually gives. But fear, it's not the enemy. It is just the competition. My name is Sloan Sheridan-Williams, and I would love to tell you a story. So I was 8 years old and I went to the doctor. And the doctor said, I just need to do a quick operation, 20 minutes in and out. And I was actually really excited. The night before, I went to bed thinking, this is my rite of passage, my very first operation. I could hear my mother's footsteps coming up the stairs. Snuggled under the duvet, got all comfortable, cozy, calm, confident even. And she came and she sat on the end of my bed. As she did so, the absolute colour drained from her face. She turned white as a ghost and her lips turned blue. She put her hand on my leg. She looked me directly in the eyes. And she said, with such authority, I hope you don't die tomorrow. Die? Die? When was death an option? had been really excited. By this point, the threat assessment area of my brain, called the amygdala, was going absolutely crazy. I was thinking, who's going to get my favourite board game collection, or my favourite cuddly toy, which is in the shape of a big pink panther? I was also thinking the important things, like, would I be able to say, I love you to my grandmother before I died? I tried to put on my bravest voice. It didn't come out so good. It came out a little bit like, I'm not going to die, Mummy. She seemed to be satisfied with this. And as I heard her footsteps going away, I remember being absolutely frozen in shock and panic. I managed to pull the duvet up above my head. And then my brain comes out with an even crazier thought. It says to me, this is what it's going to be like to be buried alive. And I'm sure you've all had those moments where your brain, it goes from normal to neurotic, faster than a Lamborghini goes from 0 to 60, just zoom. And you don't know where it comes from, but what has happened is this logical, analytical part of your brain has just gone to sleep. And the fear-driven, the primitive part of your brain has decided to kick in. So this fear-driven part of the brain, I like to call her Amy. I mentioned it earlier, the amygdala. And Amy is young, immature, insecure, and just really loves drama. And I'm sure you all know someone like that, but when you know someone like that, you can walk away. But when that person lives in your brain, you can't really move anywhere or go anywhere. And the worst thing about Amy is that she's actually made up of 75% negative-seeking neurons. So when Amy is analysing any situation, she's 3 times out of 4 always going to come up with the most worst-case scenario. As you can see, I didn't die in the operation. I am able to stand on this stage. But fear really motivated and changed the course of my life. So as an 8-year-old, I studied really, really hard. I hit the books, I studied science, I studied medicine, and actually I studied so hard, I became the youngest medic in the UK, and I got an unconditional place at Oxford University. I was very proud. And I then went from there to law. So I was duly qualified, but I was still being motivated by fear. So the fear took me down a road where I became a lawyer, specialising in operations, going wrong, even resulting in death. And the point here is I was such a small version of myself, and no single person deserves to be the smallest version of themselves. And luckily, someone told me this, and I was able to say Control-Alt-Delete, quit my job, reset my life, and get my soul to smile again. So the idea that I want to explain to you today is very much what my book was about, which is fear is like a cage. It absolutely walls you in. There are 4 main walls of fear. The first wall is where you have a wall in front of you, which is like a lack of focus. You try and see through, you try and get clarity, you try and get direction, but you just don't know where you're going. The second wall of fear is behind you, and it's distrust. It's a kind of wall where you're always thinking, have I got the resources? Am I going to be able to do this? Do I have the confidence or the ability? The third wall is the wall of attachments, and it's all that emotional baggage that you're like dragging into your future that is really slowing you down. And the fourth wall is that of expectations, and I think we all know those ones where we're so frightened of failing, we don't actually even get started because we think those expectations are going to berate us. And fear is very clever because you have these four walls, and they actually hold this transparent glass roof above your head. So you look and you can see your dreams and you think you're going to achieve them, but it's not true because you're going to keep hitting your head against that glass ceiling. But when you know how to hack fear, you can beat it. So I'd just like you to imagine for a moment that you had a choice of two life coaches. You can choose life coach A or life coach B. So life coach A is like Amy, like that threat assessment area in your brain, where you're being coached by someone who's insecure, or someone who loves drama, or someone who's just not confident. Coach B, on the other hand, is wise, is rational, is strategic even. I think it's a no-brainer, you'd all choose Coach B, right? Exactly. Now what if I told you you had Coach B in your brain already? It's called Brodmann's area, Brodmann's area 25. And what Brodmann does is he talks to Amy, silences her down, and comes back with a rational way of being. They decided to talk to some students to lie on an MRI machine so we could watch what happened to their brains and see all these flashing images light up. And the idea was you lie down on the MRI machine and there is a snake at the other end. All the subjects were frightened of snakes, but they were given a choice. You can press the button, move closer to the snake, or you can just stay there paralysed by fear and let the MRI machine move you. What they found is that the subjects that pressed the button actually lit up Brodmann's area. So the idea here is if you press the button, light up the area, Brodmann goes to work, silences Amy, the neocortex comes in, and it provides you what you need, which is actually context. Because when you have the context that it is a toy snake, when Amy is saying that it's going to bite you and you're going to die and there's venom and all these crazy thoughts, you can put the context there and say, it's just a toy. So if you need Brodmann's area to fight your fears, and if you need courage to wake up Brodmann, then how do you actually find that courage? So this is what I refer to as source. Source as a recipe for success. But what is it? It's this unshakable belief in yourself. It's that kind of confidence that is mixed with your touch of your talent and a pinch of your purpose and a hint of curiosity and even a dash of adventure. Because if you don't have the right source, you're not going to get what you want in life. You need the right source so that you don't live your life here, but you actually get to live your life here. So for example, if you were going to have a Sunday roast, it would be much better with a gravy. If you were going to have a Christmas dinner, you'd want to pair it with a cranberry sauce or a bread sauce. Now life is very similar. Just like you wouldn't put barbecue sauce with vanilla ice cream, you also need to get the right sauce for what you're doing in life. Without the right sauce, you're not going to get the right results. You're going to have missed opportunities. You're going to make poor decisions. You're going to have issues with your relationships, your finances, your health, even your mental health. I like to work with my clients and I study behaviour. I model what other people do and how they get successful. So out of all the people that I could model in the world, I decided to model superheroes. If you could have any sauce in the world, wouldn't you want to have superhero sauce? All superheroes go through the exact same journey. And you can have that moment. You can have that moment where you get to have the powers to do what you want and fight your fears. Firstly, you have to realise that you're a superhero and that you have powers. Then you have to use those powers and learn. And that involves mistakes, and that's okay too. And then when you finally get to your mission and you use your superpowers continuously, you find that your mission becomes far clearer. The idea is, it's very simple, but it's not always easy. It's about taking action daily. It's about not putting all the pressure on what your dreams are or how you're going to get there, but making sure that you are taking a step each and every single day. You see, the first wall of fear I was talking to you about that hits your focus. If it gets in the way of your focus, you don't have clarity and direction, if you're not moving forward, that fear grips you at the very first wall. Those kind of emotions where you think, I'm okay as I am, everything's working for me, you know, I'm not Elon Musk, I'm not going to invent the next supercar, or I'm not going to be as good as the next person. Those are actually fears. It's not just about fears of snakes or fears of spiders or fears of jumping out of planes. It's the fears that are holding you back from taking the smallest steps that will actually end up in the biggest results. So by taking action daily, you are actually fighting your fears at the very base level. If you want it and you put in the hours, you will get it. That is how you get your dreams. You have to outwork the competition. Dwayne Johnson, also known as The Rock, he didn't get his body without going to the gym a lot, right? And Andy Murray didn't win Wimbledon twice by sitting on the couch eating popcorn. For me, I love basketball. I just don't think we have enough of it in the UK, in fact, but Kobe Bryant, James LeBron, Michael Jordan, they put all the hours on the court. And that's what you really need to do. Fear is going to get in the way, but you need the direction so that you have your focus, which is then when you can apply the emotion, because you need the positive emotion to drive you forward so that your direction eventually lines up with your destination. So the second wall of fear I told you about earlier is distrust. It's always behind you. It's the thing that kind of creeps up on you. As I said, you need these positive emotions to drive you forward. But it's the negative emotions that just bury your superpowers and all your talents so that you can't find them. And I'm sure we've all experienced these, like anger or jealousy or rage, hurt, disappointment, and also distrust. And distrust is one of the worst emotions because it can really stick a dagger through your heart, especially when that distrust is in yourself. When that fear is that you are not good enough. So when you're listening to a piece of music and you know those really catchy tunes and you hear it going over and over and over in your head, that's called the hook. And the fear of distrust also works like the hook because it can hook onto you and really stop you in your tracks. But worse than that, people who are master manipulators can use that fear that you have of distrust in yourself and use it to get what they need in their advantage, which can often hurt you. So this happened to me about a decade ago. I was already quite successful. I was a celebrity life coach. I had seen everyone from the girl next door to CEOs, sports stars, politicians, royalty, celebs. And they decided that I would be a really good target to say if they offered me 6 months at a set price, and they would give me 2 pieces of coverage every month. And this was fantastic. I loved working with them. But when the 6 months were up, they came to me, I think they doubled or tripled their price, and they said, would you like to sign up for another 6 months? Same deal, 2 pieces of coverage. And I said, no, I'm okay as I am. We basically went on to have a meeting explaining that I would be nothing, that I would be finished if I didn't actually sign up with them, and I would also be ordinary, forgotten. That triggered an event in my brain that basically said, you know what? Challenge accepted. If you think that I'm ordinary, if you think that I spent all this time making my clients extraordinary and I can't be extraordinary, I'm going to take that challenge. In the end, I did 200 of pieces of online and offline coverage. I started my radio show. I had my own magazine by that point. I authored a book. I spoke on stages around the world in 50 different languages, in 30 different countries. I was published, and the list goes on and on and on. And I was so proud, not that I'd achieved all of that, but that exposure got me to help thousands and thousands of people beat their fears. And also teach them that you don't have to have the resources of that big PR company or whatever is making you frightened. You just have to be more resourceful. So the third wall of fear, I will just very briefly touch upon. It's those about your attachments. And I think you've probably heard many people tell you that you need to leave your baggage in the past, right? But it is so true. Who you attach yourself to and the beliefs that you attach yourself to are absolutely essential. You know that Batman had Robin and Alfred, and that's, obviously great allies. But if you think about it in terms of superheroes, would Superman go into business with Lex Luthor? Would Superman invite Lex Luthor to dinner? No. But what do? When we find toxic people and narcissists and negative people, we go into business with them, we have relationships with them, we invite them into our social circle, and then we freeze and we make up excuses for them. Supervillains, as I like to call them, they're often really persuasive and very, very, very charming, so it is hard to find the difference between an ally and a supervillain. And again, this is where fear comes in, because you have to have the strength to walk away. The fourth wall of fear is about expectations. And when you go back to thinking about your source and how you are, expectations about how you see yourself and your fear of failure in the future. My advice to you is to go get your own source, whether it's superhero or not, and fill your life with flavor and possibility. Every single one of you deserves to have your dreams. But the price is courage. You need courage to say Control-Alt-Delete on anything that makes you smaller in life. Because when you say Control-Alt-Delete to that which isn't working for you, you give yourself space. And with space comes choice. With choice comes opportunity. With opportunity comes fulfillment. And every single one of you deserves to have that space, to make that choice, to give yourself that gift. So make the choice. Give yourself the gift. And press Control-Alt-Delete on whatever is making you smaller and isn't working for you, so that you can have a brighter future. Thank you very much. You've been a fantastic audience.